So how do you know when you're in an abusive relationship? How can you tell? Like, is it toxic? Is it abusive? Is he the problem? Are you the problem? Now, I'm going to give you some specific ways, and I'm also going to talk about some key feelings. If you feel anxious, if you feel constantly nervous, if you just kind of overall feel confused, if you feel powerless, if you feel trapped, if you're constantly feeling shame, if you're constantly blaming yourself, if you feel unseen, unheard, unloved, and just basic overall dread or even fear about the future, fear of the unknown, if you feel fear of any kind, these are red flags. Now let's get a little bit more specific, okay? Let's dig in a little bit with this sort of anxious, nervous feeling. That's walking on eggshells. So how you might see this showing up in yourself is that you're constantly sort of having to change your tone, change your words, make sure that they're in a good mood. Another one is extreme mood swings from your partner. Now, the thing about an abusive relationship is that it's always got good times, right? They're oscillating between abusiveness and kindness, positive reinforcement, and devaluation. So here's an example. You have some explosive fight, and then 2 seconds later, everything's fine. Maybe they just act like nothing happened, or they shower you with love. That's going to leave you confused, and that makes sense because it's confusing. They might try to isolate you. That's another one, right? They're trying to sabotage your relationships with your friends and family. They don't let you go anywhere, or they let you go somewhere, but there's always a negative consequence. They might even say things like, your friend so-and-so is not even good enough for you. Or something like, oh, why do you never prioritize me the one time you want to go out with your friends? You'll also notice a pattern of them just minimizing or just completely dismissing your feelings. They'll say things like, oh, you're so dramatic, or you're always going on about this. Now, of course, they're going to gaslight you, right? They want to twist reality and distort your perceptions to make you question yourself. They'll tell you, I never said that. You're overreacting. God, you're so crazy. You'll feel drained. You'll feel exhausted. And I'm talking like emotionally, mentally, physically. You literally just feel depleted, constantly trying to manage their moods and keep them happy. Now, this can even show up in that you don't sleep very well. You're constantly on edge. Another one is that they're going to control your decisions. They might be overt, like controlling what you wear, who you see, who you talk to. Maybe they'll demand access to your phone, or they'll constantly criticize your decisions. But it could also be a lot more covert, where again, they're making you feel guilty for spending time with friends. Or, and this one will show up a lot more covertly, and I experienced this, where the coercive control was always praise. You're so good. I'm so glad that you're not out gallivanting around like those HOESs. A lot of people don't actually recognize that as control, but it is. Another one in an abusive relationship is blame shifting, right? You made me do this. You made me cheat on you. You make me yell at you. If you weren't so difficult, I wouldn't have to yell at you. And in this relationship, you feel like you have lost yourself. Maybe you even stop pursuing your hobbies. You stop the job you love. You stop seeing your friends. You just don't feel confident in who you are. Another one is that you fear their reactions. You're literally afraid to bring up issues, to talk about your feelings, to ask for your needs to be met. And why? Why are you so afraid, right? Because you're afraid to be punished. You're afraid of the negative consequences. Another one is physical, verbal, or sexual coercion. Some of this can be obvious, but it's not always that obvious. Name calling, degrading comments, pressuring you to do things in the bedroom that you don't want to do. And they might even say things like, if you loved me, you would do this, or this is your wifely duty. Physical abuse also includes things like pinching, slapping, pushing, snatching things out of your hand, using their body to intimidate you. And actually, sleep deprivation is also physical abuse. When they try to keep you up all night fighting? If you constantly feel guilty or you doubt yourself, this is another sign of abuse. You feel responsible for their bad moods. You feel responsible for their behaviors. You feel responsible to get them to their appointments. It's crazy how they can guilt you. And the last one that I want to address is kind of a key one. It's when your intuition just feels off, like you don't trust yourself. You know something's not right, right? I know you know that. Maybe you're even justifying their behavior to other people and you're kind of wondering, like, is this normal? Don't all couples fight? Isn't marriage hard? Now, I always feel like when I post lists like this, people are like, how many of these do I need to check mark for this to be abusive? And the answer, it's one. The truth is, if any of these things are happening in a pattern, you're in an abusive relationship. Now, I just gave you 13 things. How many apply to you? Now, if